Good evening. If you could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that said, if you have had time to take a look at the agenda, we need a motion to approve the agenda, unless we have any changes or you'd like to amend anything. I know number 9, we cannot do anything with that this evening. It's not completed on the legal side of it. And on 11C, we can introduce it, but we cannot do anything with the fences and setbacks.
Move number 10 up to number 6.
So you'd like to move number 10
Please update.
between 5th and... Okay. So we'll move number 10 right after number 5. After number 5, after public input. Everyone understand that?
5 first, 10 to 6.
Yep, 10 will be right after number 5, yep. So 6.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, deleting number 9, moving number 10 to number 6, and deleting fences and what that deleted?
We just can't make a motion on like 11.
Okay.
11D, we cannot make a motion on.
Okay, 11D, there will be no motion.
Yep.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We'll move on to number 4, Finance Officer. 4A, motion to approve hiring David Hodson as Finance Officer at $25 per hour effective immediately.
I'll motion to approve hiring David Hodgson as Finance Officer at $25 per hour effective immediately.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
I'm going to abstain.
Abstain?
Yeah, let's call a roll for that one.
Okay, we're going to do number 4A over. We're going to do a roll call on that. So, motion to hiring Dave Hodson as Finance Officer at $25 per hour effective immediately. Cindy's made the motion.
Brian.
No, Brian made the motion and Cindy seconded it. I'm going to do a roll call on this. Brian?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Kendra?
Aye.
Carrie?
Abstain.
Okay. Motion has passed, 1 abstained. 4B, motion to approve adding Dave Hodson to all Premier Bank authorizations.
I'll make a motion to approve Dave Hudson $1,000 credit. Oh wait, to all Premier Bank authorizations.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We'll move on to number 4C, motion to approve Dave Hodson a $1,000 credit card.
I'll make a motion to approve David Hodson a $1,000 credit card for the city.
I'll second.
Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. 4D, motion to appoint David Hodson as an authorized official to act on behalf of the city pursuant to ordinance.
I'll make a motion to appoint David Hodson as an authorized official to act on behalf of the city pursuant to ordinance.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. 4E, motion to approve posting the Deputy Finance Officer position.
I'll make a motion to approve posting the Deputy Finance Officer position.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Welcome, Dave. Glad to have you on.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 5, public input. Do we have any public input this evening? We'll move on to number 6, which is number 10, was number 10, Police Department with Chief Thompson. Updates?
I don't have any updates, just the on-call and part-timer discussion
Okay.
on executive session.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, parentheses, 1.
Yep.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We are in executive session at 6:07 PM. We are out of executive session at 6:54 PM. We'll move on to 10E. We do not need D, so we have any motion on that?
Motion to approve posting the full-time officer position.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Move on to 10F.
I'll make a motion to hire Robert Coleman as a part-time officer at $25 per hour.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. So, with that being said, we'll move on to number 6, which was number 6, but finance office arrangement. Is this Abigail's?
Well,
Or are we gonna do
one of the
this?
things was, we discussed about the building. That is something that in the future, we're gonna have to decide with this building is owned by the industrial work. So I was in here with Abigail the other day, and we went down the hallway and looked, and we have a lot of stuff over here that needs, well, Cindy was here too, that needs to be put away. So we went down the hallway and looked, and we do have stuff from the city in one room down there, and we also have stuff from the city in the home ec room. So, and we have that stuff. So, Abigail had a suggestion that she feels when the finance position is filled, that they should have an office of their own at this point. So the suggestion would be to make that room the finance officer's office. It's up to you. But they'd at least have a door, 2 doors that could be shut, and they'd have time to do stuff by themselves. Also, a couple of the people who have helped us with some of the finances have also made the same suggestion. They feel that should be in there, so they have some space to their own.
And they can close the door when they're working with numbers and stuff, you know.
But to do that, it's gonna need help. So, we'll let Dave get his feet on the ground a day or two. But we went in there and looked to see if there's plugins. We checked on the internet, and I think all that will work. But there will be some, he's gonna need help from all of us. So, to move things and to decide how we wanna do things. So that's the discussion. How do you guys feel?
I don't like things at all, so what can we throw away?
Well, we at least need to get it out. There's a lot of
There's a lot of
shelves
this-
and reports in there that will
Yeah.
have to be put
So,
down the hallway
Yeah.
on shelves.
There's also just a lot of random things in there. There's a brand new basketball hoop in there. And I have no idea how long it's been there or why it's there. There are 2 family-size electric griddles.
yeah, so I think we should go for it all.
Yeah,
Yeah, and probably surplus a lot of it.
Even-
Make some money out of.
down, we looked in the home ec room and that has been went through, but it needs to be went through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just needs to have things pulled out of it because that room is going to be one of the demolished ones.
Yeah.
So whatever's in there of ours just needs to be moved out of it.
A lot of it is decorations for the city. There's a lot of, they had a bit, like, there was a whole closet, a big closet, full of stuff in there. And some of it probably should go
At least
bye-bye.
maybe we'll put it all in one room, so we're not in multiple rooms
Yeah.
until we decide what's gonna happen
Yeah.
with this building.
It could totally be gone through later. It just needs to be put somewhere.
So, Dave, could we give you a couple days and you get your thoughts together on this? And then let us know, and then we'll set a day to help you, or some evening, or,
Sounds good.
is that okay?
Yeah, you can make
All
that
right.
work.
So I don't think we need a motion for anything, we just need,
Well, that was also on there because there was some discussion of like if we would want to maintain this building.
oh, yeah. And that's something we'll have to discuss with the industrial board.
Yeah.
I think the industrial board is gonna have to meet with us.
In case you wanted to make a motion to
Yeah.
send us through the open office or something like that.
Sounds
If I may be recognized, just be careful on the archival. Melissa Kai brought this up a couple years ago, on things that need to be, there it's referred to as an archival thing, that they need to keep it in an archive for a certain number of years or whatever. So be, kind of maybe
Can you give
refresh
me-
your members.
Give me an example, like, what would it be?
Legal documents.
Okay,
That giving,
Paperwork type.
yeah, it's more
So-
paperwork, but yeah, that's, but
okay.
be careful on that.
Okay.
Any other discussion in regards to this? If not, we do not need B, so we'll move on to number 7, old clubhouse discussion. This has been kind of going on for the last, at least over a year. People want to buy it, we remove it out, we fix it up, renovate it, do something with it. Shelley Russ was wanting to bring her business to town. I guess this is why it's on the agenda. We need to make a decision what we want to do with it.
The community center staff did call me today. And this is going to be a new issue. They do store stuff in the old clubhouse. And the golf course also has parts to, like the sprinklers that have to be in there all winter, because they put them in there so it's above 50 degrees. But also now there's a new problem added, that beer is only going to be delivered every 2 weeks, which is going to mean that they need to have more storage, and there is none. Basically, that one room is full. So what they wanted us to be aware of is there's some glassware and some of that in there that could be, and maybe even a few tables be moved out of there and moved to the old clubhouse so they would have a room. Otherwise, they're gonna need some kind of storage. So that's just another issue.
Do you think that the delivery is that much because it's golf season and do they anticipate it to
I don't know, she
down?
said it won't be, she said it's quite a bit of beer. And she said they just don't, every 2 weeks now is all she said. So maybe it's seasonal.
That's what I was wondering, because that's about to drop off. like, a
Yeah.
bit, So I didn't know.
Yeah, she didn't say, she just said every 2 weeks, so.
Well, I definitely think it'd be nice to bring another business to the city, but at this point, I just don't know if we're really set to be able to sell it, being we are using it, but if we're going to continue owning it and maintaining it, we need to fix it up. The siding is really poor condition, it's an eyesore. I mean, we need to have it looking very presentable, maybe we should try to put siding on it to match the new clubhouse, do something. But I'm just saying at this point, if we don't do anything with it, it's gonna be there another 5 years from now and be an eyesore.
Is that an asphalt roof, Luke, or is that?
It's a steel.
It is.
It's got a new
Okay.
roof. The roof is, well,
see, I
like
thought it
Dave
was-
Larson says the roof is the best thing on it.
Okay, I couldn't remember how long ago we did that.
But it's got big sewer issues, and it's also, the electrical is on the outside. Couldn't find any electrical boxes on the inside.
The breakers are on the outside of the building?
Couldn't even find them the day I went in there with Russ's.
There might be a disconnect somewhere in another building too.
Yeah, could be. We couldn't find one in the
So
building.
how many buildings are over there? Because is it the one that used to house the carts?
No, that's gone.
And then is that other big building that was right, because it was like, here's the clubhouse. There was a building here, a building here.
The aluminum one behind it is what stores the furniture for the clubhouse at this point. And then the one by the road is their mechanical, their maintenance building.
I think Lonnie's opinion on this whole thing is we should not, for sure, I mean, if we decide to move the building out of there down the road, that's fine. But the main water line, which I've discussed this before, is feeding the water tower, goes right along the foundation, right in between the two buildings. And so, I mean, we need to kind of maintain control of the property.
I don't think we should sell it.
So with that being said, I think we just need to let Shelley Russ know
Yeah.
we'd love
That's
to
the
have a
biggest
business,
concern.
but we just,
Yeah.
at this point, we're not able to sell the building.
Would we be willing to lease it to her? I think that's what she wanted.
You know, that's a possibility, but then again, we're going back to if we're using it,
Yeah.
so
Are we using it or using the building?
we're using
We're
it.
using it.
Is there any extra room in the building behind it that we could move some of that storage that's being used there to that building? Or is it
Possibly, but it's not heated.
That one's not insulated or heated.
That back?
And the issue is, it does have sewer issues, so we don't know what we're gonna get into there cost-wise at the present. And also the electrical, we don't know what we're gonna get into at the present. Do we have the money to do that? That would be my, because by talking to them, they would be willing to work out something on the lease on the inside. But we would be responsible for the siding, the electrical, the
Windows.
sewer, and windows. They wanted windows. I'm just afraid it could really get costly right now, is what I'm afraid of. So just say we have to table it.
I know it's a little ways off Main Street, but maybe it's a possibility for the city office down the road. I know it's a smaller building, but does the city have the money to maintain this whole building? I know this room here is really nice, it's convenient for the city office, but at some point, if we do take ownership of the remaining of the property, it will be our responsibility for the whole building. So I mean, it's just something that the city needs to keep in mind, ask the public, see, get some public input on what people would like to see.
Because when they pull this off, if I understood it right from Jamie, we would be responsible for the door, the new door, and they're not even sure what they're gonna do on the kitchen wall, the old. So that could be a big cost too. So there is some kind of gray areas in all this.
So I think, with that being said, the city's gonna continue maintaining it. We should look at getting some bids on siding it if it's in the budget to try to fix it up, curb appeal, make it look a little bit better. Unless we're gonna leave it for another year and then decide to have it moved out.
And that's probably something we wouldn't actually have to do until next spring, though.
Correct.
Is right.
But are we in agreement that I talk to Shelley Russ and say at this time we are not going to do anything?
Yeah.
I don't think we can right now.
I don't think we can afford to do what they would like us.
No, I don't think we can. Not that I don't want the business, I would love the business. What's that?
We've already done that.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I don't know if we really need a motion, because we're not taking any legal action upon it, right? Correct?
Darlene will call it.
I'll call Shelley. Yep.
All right, any other discussion on that? If not, we're gonna move on to number 8, Fairgrounds water valve, with, I think it's in your handouts in front of you, with Waterman backhoe. This is the valve down at the fairgrounds, right along the evergreen trees, kind of where FCS is putting their new scales, running their lines up to the new scale house. We need to move it to the further south to get the curb stop on city property. So that's what this handout is. So we would need, if there's not any other discussion, we would need a motion to approve having this done and paying up to the $3,968.37.
So part of like what we gave the fairgrounds to go ahead and do their work.
So this,
Not the fairgrounds, sorry.
There it is.
FCS,
Yes, thank you, Larry.
so this was on that road that FCS has purchased.
It was in the
That, it
trees.
was just underneath the trees.
I thought
Still
you
is
said that
the-
was gonna stay and we still have access to it. The water companies.
It's going, it will just be moved further south onto our property, because right now it is,
Side of the
So
road
we have
or-
control
yes,
of it.
to the south. Yeah, because right now it is on FCS's property.
And I think FCS is working on getting water lines and stuff into their
Scale.
office.
Okay.
So they're already doing a lot of construction work. If we're gonna ever move it, that would be the time.
I just misunderstood. I thought it was
That's
staying there and we still
The
had.
the phone lines are there and, what was it? There
We were
was,
granted an easement
To keep the water there?
to keep the line there.
Because it's going underneath the road, so we would have to have an
We're
easement.
still gonna need an easement regardless of if we move this on the side.
they just come out of the, what, from?
I'd call it water.
Water.
Any other discussion, questions?
So he's just relocating the water, right? To bring it on the other side of the road closer to where the fair, how
It's on the
buildings are?
city property.
Right.
Right now, it would not be on the city.
Right, because it's on,
Well, I'll make a motion to pay Dan Waterman $3,968.37 to relocate the fairground curb stop.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We'll move on. Of course, we do not need number 9, that public hearing. So we're going to move on to number 11. 10 is already completed. Legal updates with Austin.
Yeah, and I can quickly just explain why the public hearing is getting moved. So we had initially scheduled a zoning commission hearing for the 5th, but obviously with it being changed, there was never a new notice sent out and published according to the zoning regulations, so I don't feel comfortable moving forward on that until we renotice it and make sure that we're complying with our own zoning, and we can discuss that. We'll have more than 10 days, so my guess is that'll get moved to kind of the 3rd or whenever that first meeting in October is. Fences and setbacks, I'll hit quickly. That's also going to be a part. So in order to make an amendment for the zoning board, that needs to be a part of it. I do have a copy of the ordinance itself that I'll pass out, just because I'm not for sure what the council, if this is exactly how they want to So the recommendation, and this is Sam that primarily was the lead on it, but there were some issues and some recommendations specifically as far as it goes from rear yard setback. Currently, our ordinance is at 25 feet for a rear setback. In looking at other cities, that was deemed to be a little excessive. And this would be a twofold perk by doing this. Number one, it would probably bring some other places that are non-compliant right now into compliance. And now that I'm looking at it, I didn't make enough copies, and I apologize. No, I did. I take it back. So this would move it from 25 feet to 15 feet, but I didn't know if that's where the council wanted it to be at. So just before the next meeting, that way we'd have the opportunity to discuss that, kind of what the thoughts were, and if we wanted to make it more or less. Because right now, if somebody wants to be within that setback, they have to get a variance. So I don't know if there's any strong feelings one way or another. I've looked at a few municipalities. Vermilion's was at 25 feet. I looked at like Harrisburg's, there was at 20 feet. They specifically designated different setbacks depending on what it is. Specifically, such as it's 20 feet for everything, 20 feet for main buildings, 15 feet for accessory buildings, and like 10 feet for decks. So I didn't know if there was any idea if you wanted to piecemeal that or just leave it at a set standard. That was the only thing, so I'll leave you to kind of think about that. We can always make a decision at the next meeting. But that'll be a part of actually the zoning and the zoning committee. And then also I have this. This is one from a while back that I just wanted to follow up on. This is the fence ordinance that we had discussed as far as, I think it was originally brought up by Jeff Fillingsness, specifically about where to place a fence on your adjacent neighbor's property. We had discussed at that time whether we wanted to, put a setback in place or allow people to put fences directly on the property. The ordinance, this is kind of what we decided at that time, but I don't think it was ever passed. So I just want to bring that back up. That specifically allows for people to put it on the fence line with the approval of the neighbor, and then a copy of the agreement we would file with the finance office and the registry of deeds. So those were the two things I wanted to follow up on. Can't take any official action on this because it's got to go through the planning and zoning committee. But at the next meeting with that notice sent out, we'll definitely be able to do that. As far as the building permit discussion, and I'll back up to the nuisance letters last, so I'll do E quick. Building permit discussions, my understanding, unless I'm missing something from Sam, this was specifically in the zoning about allowing the authorized official to allow people to start on building projects without the entirety of the plans. We're dealing with a few issues where there are buildings that were complete, they weren't done in conformance with the building code, we didn't have plans to that effect and didn't approve it. So that person's looking at potentially, having to put a whole new roof on or something to that effect. So I think it's pretty prudent to not even allow that to happen and making sure that every building permit, you have the full plans in place before approving something like that. That would also be something that would have to go through planning and zoning.
I just have a question in specific for that road.
Yeah.
Like the whatever. When somebody goes to get a building permit, though, they don't have to say like what type of screws they're using and that kind of stuff. I mean, I understand they show the blueprint of how something is going to lay on the property, but that would fall back on whoever built the house or did the work for them not following code. That has nothing to do with the building permit.
Correct, but ultimately the building has to be in compliance, and that's going to go through the building permit. Now, if your contractor didn't do something right, you go after the contractor.
That's what I'm saying, though, like,
Yeah,
for that, right?
correct, but I still, I think as a matter of best practice, we shouldn't be allowing building permits without having the full plans and having them approved.
No, I understand that. I just know who's gonna know besides the contractor, like what type.
Correct.
Nail or screw
Correct.
or siding or is in compliance beside.
Correct, but there might be people that are trying to do some DIY projects and not doing them according to code, and then it's on them,
Gotcha.
so,
Is this strictly the roof issue? Was it strictly the hidden fasteners?
yes.
Is that a county thing or is that ours?
That's ours, because we've adopted the international maintenance code.
That's what?
We've adopted the international maintenance and building code. So buildings that are built in town need to comply with that, because that's why we have a code enforcement that works for the city. And that's Jeff Fromm's SSU. They know.
So the hidden fasteners thing, is it something we can get rid of?
Well, if that's the proper procedure with that, they can apply for a variance. That's simple. I think it's kind of dangerous precedent to do that, you know. And that's something I'm just gonna get a variance for, because I think buildings need to be brought up to code. And I know our code enforcer would agree with that, but that's honestly the council's decision, so I won't read too much into that. And then as far as nuisance letter updates, talked with Jeff Films this yesterday. There are a few, and it's more determining on if the council wants to pick and choose specific places and, you know, some of the more egregious, or if we want to go after everybody. That's potentially got a nuisance according to the code, just because, you know, there's two kind of thoughts about it. Hey, do you apply it to everybody? And then a lot of people may not be in compliance with, you know, the nuisances and have, you know, lawn grass, things of that variety. Or do you just pick the most egregious? That's up to that's up to the council as well. So I have a list from Films is going to have it with me with some specific properties that he spoke with me about, but we only touched on that topic very briefly because I deal with him on a few cities that are in a lot worse shape than what Alcester's got. So I don't have anything else besides that unless you guys have questions.
When you talk about codes,
Yeah.
this is what, for example, my daughter bought a house in Sioux Falls, when we were in Sioux Falls. They signed the agreement, but when it went to his inspection, that they had done their own basement project and nothing was up to code, so it was void. So they were out of that. That's what I don't think people understand. I mean, I would have never known that where we look for that, is that what we should know as a city? Do we need to know that? Like, does Abigail need to know that? Where do you know that?
Know that a building is.
But what the code is? Would the builder know that? Is that who's supposed to know?
The
that?
builder's supposed to know, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, builders should know how to build buildings according to code.
okay.
And then it's the city's job, we have a code enforcer that, you know, determines, hey, this building's in compliance, it's not in compliance. These are the steps you have to fix.
So if you do a home project yourself, someone from the city should still look at it with the building permit thing?
So the way that our ordinances are specifically set up is say, hey, I'm doing something to my house, I get the building permit. It's the person who signs off on the building permit's job to essentially look at it, and a lot of, you know, people don't necessarily have the technical knowledge to do that, so they need to rely on the sources that they have. Specifically, I would say our code enforcement, so you would have a lot better base of knowledge to that. Now, if it's a huge project or something like that, I don't know if that would ever happen in Alcester or anything to that scale. You'd even potentially look at bringing in an engineer. So,
Okay.
So then after a project is finished, like say a garage was built or added on, if we give approval, the contractor did all the work, they're required to, then are we required to send the code enforcer out to check it out, or is that?
not necessarily.
When I do a building permit, I always scan it in and email it to the county and email it to Jeff
Oh, okay,
as
so
soon
he
as,
gets it.
as soon as possible. So if he decides that this is something you should look at, I'll respond to it. But I always send them up.
I just didn't know when something was done, how it
Yeah.
was followed up on, or did it get left for years and then they tried to sell the house and they're like, hey, it wasn't up to code, but nobody ever checked it, so.
No, I mean, that's our code enforcement's job is to go and look at are an issue, essentially say, yeah. And your hope is that the contractor and the code enforcer are working together to kind of make sure at each step, because you don't want to get to a point where a project's almost done and none of it's
Yeah.
in compliance. So,
Thanks.
Any other discussion on any of the items under 11? If not, we'll move on to number 12, 2023 budget presentation.
It's just the last page again, the appropriation ordinance. Does anybody have any questions after what I discussed last week? I don't have to read through it all again, it's just a second reading of it, so if there's any questions or anything, then the ordinance sits how it sits.
Correct.
Then it will go based on that, it will then be, after a motion is made, if it is approved, it will go to publish and take effect in January. Any questions?
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve second reading City of Alcester for the
24, sorry.
well, I'll be for 24. Yeah.
yeah, we can amend the motion as to what we need.
So that item there will have to be amended to 2024,
Okay.
so it's clear.
So I make a motion to amend the budget presentation to the year of 2024.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Number 13, reminders and updates. Homecoming Spirit Week, September 25th through September 29th, 2023. 13B, Homecoming Parade, 1 p.m., September 29th, 2023. 13C, Homecoming Football Game, September 29th, 2023, 6 p.m. against Avon. 13D, Homecoming Dance, September 29th, 2023, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. If there's no other reminders, we'll move on. With that being said, we have number 14. Do we need an executive session?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, parentheses 1.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are in executive session at 7:26 p.m.
Can you quit my first? Oh, you can say.
We are out of executive session at 7:39 p.m. With that being said, we'll move on to number 15. We need a motion to adjourn the council.
Make a motion to adjourn council.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We are out of it. We adjourned at 7:39 p.m.